Are you tired of sifting through endless health advice that promises quick fixes but delivers nothing but frustration? Welcome to the Anti-Macro Podcast, the go-to place for scientifically backed yet digestible health and fitness wisdom without the fads or gimmicks. Whether you're looking to ditch chronic dieting, optimize your hormone and gut health, or simply find balance in your wellness journey, you're in the right place. I'm Coach Diana Lee, your no-nonsense guide to transforming your health and mindset for the better. Each episode, I'll dive into topics ranging from nutrition basics to debunking common myths to cutting-edge functional health insights, sometimes featuring guest experts in the space. Get ready to learn, grow, and take actionable steps toward a healthier and happier you. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's dive in. You should only trust a dietitian or a medical provider. This was a post I saw on Instagram one day while scrolling through my feed. In it, the creator of this content piece argued that no one should be trusting anyone without a formal degree or dietitian license. I did what I do, and I hopped over to the comments, and what I found was actually very interesting. I found countless stories of people who argued against this point. I actually didn't expect that. But these people in the comments expressed their frustration with years of trying to get help through the medical system and ultimately being failed by said system. And it's not that I didn't expect this because I didn't know about these stories. I'm fully well aware of them. But sometimes you just don't know what you're going to find in a comment section. But these individuals who were commenting were expressing how finding a functional coach or someone who didn't go through the traditional educational route is how they finally felt seen, heard, and ultimately got relief. So what do we make of this tension? How do we navigate who to trust with our health when the system fails some, but the unregulated wellness industry often has its own set of pitfalls? Let's break down some of the common claims and get to the heart of the issue. Where do we, as humans, find the balance and build a reliable team to support our health? Now, let's go back to that original claim, right? Only trust a dietitian or a doctor or somebody with a medical license. And I'm just going to start by saying there are always going to be good eggs and bad eggs in any professional field. The hope is that the bad eggs are far and few between and do not harm the reputation of those that are doing good in this world. The fact of the matter is that the certification of being a dietitian or a doctor is not necessarily a guarantee that you are going to get good care. Yes, again, there are many individuals who are doing amazing work with their education. But unfortunately, what we are seeing is that a gap has been created in this market that needed to be filled. What I mean is, look, there are dietitians out there who still to this day prescribe ultra low calorie diets to people. Just because they have a higher education does not make them immune to giving out advice rooted in diet culture. There is also a vast number of people who feel like they have been failed by our current medical system. People, especially women, feel as though they have been dismissed by their doctors over and over again. Insurance requires us to jump through unnecessary hoops to get adequate care. Doctors in many cases are overprescribing medications without tackling root cause issues, and sometimes those medications are leading to bigger issues down the line. Some examples of this. Hormonal birth control is being given to women to quote-unquote balance their hormones when the reality is that birth control just simply blunts ovulation. There's no balancing happening here. Women who are given hormonal birth control as a band-aid for their symptoms often actually have worse issues when they come off of hormonal birth control such as PCOS, Hashimoto's, and other autoimmune disorders, and more. PPIs, which are known as proton pump inhibitors, are intended to be a short-term medication, but people are being placed on them for decades. Long-term PPI usage can actually exacerbate gut health issues by blunting the body's natural stomach acid production, leading to issues so much further down the line. Thyroid medications are being prescribed without full thyroid panels being run. Oftentimes, doctors are only looking at TSH and maybe free T4, which is only half of the picture needed to properly treat thyroid conditions. People with IBS are given medication for managing their symptoms without ever being told that they can holistically heal their gut and reduce or eliminate their symptoms through diet, exercise, stress, and supplementation. In fact, many of the very coaches and holistic practitioners who have filled in this gap are people who have been personally failed by the medical system. They struggled with their own health, got zero support, found answers on their own, and then through this process, they became really passionate about helping others and then built businesses off of this. Now, I can go on and on about the examples and cases of people who feel like they were failed by the medical system and were forced to do their own research or seek out alternative help in order to find the relief that they so desperately needed. And I believe that this gap the medical system has left is actually incredibly dangerous. So yes, while this gap has led to the rise of my business, as well as other amazing holistic practitioners who have helped countless people, it has also led to the rise of very desperate humans and the scammers that prey on that desperation. Someone who is chronically ill on a daily basis, who is being dismissed by their medical provider, can find a lot of hope when someone on the internet says that they can take their pain and suffering away. When people with degrees have failed them before, they are more willing to overlook traditional qualifications, leading them to hire somebody who is in fact completely unqualified. And as you can imagine, this absolutely does have dangerous effects. And now this really leads us into our next common argument, right? The reason why this individual and other individuals are saying only trust people who have a medical degree or who are a formal dietitian or have some kind of legitimized education is because the alternative argument is that the coaching industry is unregulated. And to that, I will absolutely agree. The very industry in which I work in is quite unregulated, and it's a very apparent problem that I see. In the group fitness industry alone, I have seen a vast array of coaching quality, and I am going to use CrossFit as an example. I think CrossFit is one of those things that is a little bit divisive. I was even very anti-CrossFit before I got into CrossFit. I pretty much ate up all the hate towards it, and then I tried it, and then I drank and quite frankly chugged the Kool-Aid, and now I'm out of the industry of CrossFit specifically, and I have my own thoughts and opinions, but maybe we'll save that for another day. But what I want to kind of use CrossFit as an example of is I worked in the CrossFit industry for just shy of a decade. During my time as a CrossFit coach, I had heard multiple stories of individuals who got hurt doing CrossFit because their coach either didn't coach them, coached them poorly, or because of some kind of irresponsible programming. Even my own best friend, she was using ClassPass at the time, walked into a gym, and the trainer put like a 45-pound barbell in her hands, had her pressing it basically overhead right from the get-go. And even I knew at the time she wasn't ready for something like that. Modifications were not properly provided to her. She ended up dealing with long-term shoulder injuries well after that single class, and she never went back. And it was anecdotal pieces like that that really frustrated me about CrossFit, because I knew in my gym that there were a lot of coaches at the time that I was working with that I really respected, that did an amazing job. I knew that we upheld a certain standard. I also knew that I was incredibly lucky to have multiple mentors during my time as a CrossFit coach who actually funneled time and energy into giving me feedback and cultivating me into a proper coach. But I also knew that that wasn't happening across the board, which is why I felt lucky. I had met other people who were not being cultivated like that. I saw in the gym other coaches who, quite frankly, should not have been coaching or just didn't have the experience and weren't given the opportunity to learn because there was no one actually cultivating them. I also visibly saw and worked with coaches who did not care to coach their classes with integrity. And I thought that this really did harm for the brand of CrossFit as a whole because there lacked a standard to coaching and developing coaches. Like, yes, they had their CrossFit level 1 and level 2 and these seminars, which quite frankly, like, don't really develop you into an amazing coach. I thought the level 2 was great. It really helped me refine my coaching skills, but a person getting a level 1 right out of the gate is not immediately going to be a good coach. And unless they are developed by whoever it is running that gym, they're not going to necessarily become a good coach. Did I go out of my way to also learn on my own and seek out development? Yeah, absolutely. But again, we're talking sometimes about resources, what's made available to a person, and what's actually encouraged from them. So I think it is a lack of drive from the individual to become a better coach, but then also sometimes it's your environment, who you're surrounded by, and whether or not you actually have mentors who are willing to help you refine your skills. As a result, I had to constantly combat the issue of a lot of people in CrossFit get hurt. And I was like, yeah, that's true. A lot of people do. I know that there's crappy coaches out there, and I know that what I'm doing is good. I'm really proud of the work that I do, but I also know that there are other people who are really watering down the brand as a result. There's a ton of other reasons why I think the CrossFit brand was a bit watered down and weak at the time, but again, that's for another day. And CrossFit's not the only victim to this. I've been in group fitness now for a really long time, and across the board, across multiple group fitness realms, and even across personal training and whatnot, you will still always see a variation in quality of coaches. There's going to be coaches who have more certifications than others. There's going to be some coaches who think that the base certification is more than enough for them to actually adequately coach individuals. There are going to be people who do not seek out further education or further mentorship to actually become better coaches and will coach in the way that they do and get people hurt and give a bad rap to the industry as a whole. But again, just like the medical field, the health and wellness industry has people doing amazing, life-changing work and others who are doing a poor job. It's always going to be the case in a lot of these spaces, whether it is highly regulated or not. But here's the thing. The coaches who saw the gap that the medical field was leaving to better treat humans in their health journey, they see this gap because they're the ones spending the most time with the people that are affected. So while a doctor may only see a patient for a 20-minute physical, maybe once every 6 to 12 months, many personal trainers or group fitness coaches are spending multiple hours of every week with clients. As an in-person trainer, I am the first to know when somebody is pregnant. I talk to people about their life stresses, their families, their friends, their hobbies, their wins, their struggles. I hear all of it, and I build these really intimate relationships with the people who come through my gym. In my business, I'm speaking to my clients at least a bare minimum once a week, but more often than not, I'm talking to them throughout most of the week. I have the capacity to help my clients in such an intimate manner, so much so that I have clients telling me about their daily bowel movements and symptoms day after day, week over week, through symptom journaling, of course, but regardless, I'm able to provide a level of support that many medical providers do not have the capability of doing based on how the medical system is set up. The industry that I am in has provided a higher level of care that is often just not accessible within the medical field and can be far more effective in creating life-changing transformations. There is not a whole lot you can do in a primary care visit. You can give some general advice to an individual, but you have no idea if they're actually taking that advice and making change. And of course, there are other levels of providers that do provide higher levels of care. But even so, I do think that coaching provides a level of intimacy that is just, quite frankly, unmatched. To go back and say that our industry is completely unregulated, I would say is a stretch. It's incorrect. Do we have a lack of regulations to a degree? Yes. Are we completely unregulated? Not necessarily. We do, in fact, have a multitude of accreditations that are legitimate. But here's something that is actually pretty disturbing. I have worked with quite a few business coaches over the years in the time of building my business. And a sentiment that has come up multiple times in these business coaching containers is no one cares about your credentials. We would be advised to not put our credentials in our Instagram bio because it didn't matter to people. And quite frankly, they had a point. I do have my credentials listed on my website and in my email signature, but the honest truth is very rarely has a client or a potential client actually asked me for my credentials. This is where you as a consumer can be more mindful about who you hire. Don't be afraid to ask the person that you are hiring to help you with your health what their credentials are. And don't be afraid to do some digging into what those credentials mean. Sure, it's a little bit of extra legwork, but it may help you avoid scam coaches who aren't actually qualified to help you. Now, let's talk about money. There are two sides of the argument that I'm seeing in terms of money, right? We always think like money is the root of all evil. I think a lot of people are getting very heightened on follow the money trail. And it brings us to one of these arguments, and that is our medical system is a corporation and just wants to make money off of our sickness. It cannot be trusted. And to that, I have to say, there's nuance. Maybe this is a political statement. I don't think it should be, but I am pro-science here. Medical advancements have been essential to our survival as a species. Vaccines have been able to eliminate diseases like polio and measles, which used to kill or injure millions of people. Modern medicine has been able to treat countless diseases that have prolonged our lives and the quality of them. And if you believe that doctors and the medical system wants to keep you sick because that's how they make money off of you, then I'm sorry, but I think you're chronically online and reading way too many conspiracy theories. I'm going back to my original argument. There are good doctors and bad doctors. There is no vast conspiracy to keep the population sick because it makes no logical sense. But the privatization of healthcare is a huge issue that we face in America. The lack of access to affordable healthcare and the fact that insurance companies, for some reason, have a final say on what tests can be run and what medications can be administered is insane. And the good doctors that are out there are often impacted by the system that we have in place. Their hands are tied, and even if they wanted to do more, sometimes they just don't have a means to. And let's address the claim that doctors are pill pushers. The claim is that doctors will more quickly administer a drug to a patient before addressing lifestyle changes. And to a degree, I do agree. I do think that sometimes doctors are not getting to root causes and they are prescribing medications when there is more that can be done. But to that, I will say there are countless people who will request a drug to fix their problem rather than actually take the advice of addressing their own lifestyle. There are two sides to this coin. There are countless people who do not want to do the hard work of taking responsibility for their health, and they are requesting the drugs as often as they are being prescribed. This is not just an issue from the doctors. This is also an issue from the population. And quite frankly, the medical system does not always have the programs available that create habit, mindset, and behavior change. In order for advice such as eat healthy and exercise to actually work, you need people like me who are willing to spend the time coaching people through making those changes. But even someone like me can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. Now, on the flip side, when we're talking about money, I'm seeing a very common counter argument that goes a little something like this. The pharmaceutical industry is worth millions, while the wellness industry is worth billions. While one side claims that the pharma industry is evil because of all the money it makes, this alternative argument points out that the wellness industry, in fact, is making far more money. So if how much money one industry makes is telling of how inherently evil or predatory they are, then the wellness industry would be the one to be wary of. And to that I say, yeah, I think this claim absolutely has some truth behind it. But again, we need to talk about a little bit of nuance here. Understand that the wellness industry is also incredibly vast. Like when we're looking at the numbers, these billions that are being made, ask what exactly is included in this list. Is this all of the diet programs like Weight Watchers? Is this all of the vast number of health coaches on the internet? Is this all of the supplements? You know, how far do those branches reach? And what is all encompassing within this big number of billions? Is it the group fitness gyms? Is it the regular Globo gyms? Is it the personal trainers? These billions of dollars truly do encompass so many different facets of wellness, both areas of legitimacy and also illegitimacy. The pharmaceutical industry may make boatloads of money, but they are at least rigorously regulated. These regulations cost companies money and time, which can limit their income if you compare them to, let's say, the supplement industry, who can crank out whatever they want and take it right to market and be sold. And trust me, you do want your healthcare industries to be regulated. You do not want a free-for-all in this space because it will only do more harm than good for the population. And the supplement industry is egregiously unregulated. Supplements often take well-studied components but use them in ineffective doses. Supplement companies will post tons of research on their product on their website to lend legitimacy to their product, knowing their consumer base has no idea how to read or evaluate research. Often the supposed research is funded by the company, which can lead to bias. This isn't to say that all supplements are bad. I use them with every single one of my clients. But I do believe that they should be more regulated than they are. I choose to only recommend trustworthy brands that I know produce high quality products as long as we can make it fit my client's budget. And they can be incredibly effective strategy, and they are not all a scam, but they do not replace legitimate medical care when needed. There is a time and a place for medical intervention, and that should never be entirely dismissed for only holistic practices. We live in a capitalist society. Money is going to drive a lot of things here, and money is going to drive some amazing things. It is going to drive advancements in our technology, in our medical field. It is going to drive individuals like myself who crop up in a space where we see a gap, where we see that there are people who are not being treated in the medical space as they need to be treated, and fill in that gap in space and help people find health again when they needed it the most. But money will also always attract scammers, opportunists, people who will prey on the desperate, people who, quite frankly, sometimes are just so delusional that they believe their own bullshit. But it is a fact of the matter. We need to make money to live. Life is pretty expensive right now. People are going to find ways to do that. Some people are going to do that honestly and respectfully, and others aren't. And yes, we need to do our due diligence in understanding which is which and who is who. Now, the final place that a lot of people are arguing that money is coming into play in a nefarious way is research. There is a growing trend of legitimate medical research being attacked as being paid for and biased, all while the research being presented in its place is also being maliciously used. I'm going to bring up a primary example here, okay? I actually brought this up in episode 55 about the vegan diet and the vegan argument. In that episode, I discussed the show You Are What You Eat, which follows 20 individuals through a research study aimed to determine whether the vegan diet was superior to the omnivore diet. This documentary highlights how many of our research studies are funded by big food, right? Like, just put big in front of anything. Big food, big pharma. Now all of a sudden it's evil, and it's a big giant corporation that is clearly trying to dupe the American public just to make money off of us, right? Meanwhile, the very study in this documentary that they are discussing is funded by a plant-based food company. The documentary itself, funded by a plant-based food company. The study result interpretations shared on the documentary is highly biased, and they only chose to highlight the aspects of the study that actually favored veganism. Convenient. There is hypocrisy wherever you look. And people all over the internet right now are using studies to support their own biases while simultaneously discrediting any studies that do not favor them. And it's creating a lot of mass confusion. This do your own research crowd is born of the people who feel failed by the medical system, but has also grown dramatically because it has been pushed by the pro-conspiracy crowd. There is a dangerous level of mistrust being placed in science and medicine, and normal everyday people seem to have inflated egos that they know far more than those who went to medical school. I'll say it again. There are good doctors and there are bad doctors. But I still believe in science. And I base my own practices within my business off of science, because I believe that if we throw away science, if we discredit all of the science that we have done, we have nothing left. Then it truly is a free-for-all for people to make up whatever shit they want and truly peddle whatever it is they want. And people will believe it because we're creating this sense of mistrust. Going as far to discredit all science in the name of pushing some kind of product or service is dangerous to our society. Claiming the medical industry wants to make money off of you while simultaneously feeding into bullshit that also wants to make money off of you is not any better. But you can and you should advocate for yourself, ask questions, and seek out second opinions from other accredited sources if you are not getting the proper care. Understand there is always going to be nuance to this conversation. Understand that we need balance. So where does this leave us? The way that we approach these topics, like any other current topic right now, is with nuance. When we have two extreme ends of the spectrum, the answer is likely somewhere in the middle. Always be wary of anybody who speaks in absolutes or extremes or demonizes one group in order to bolster themselves. Two things can be true at once. The medical system can be in need of reform, while there are also doctors and healthcare providers doing amazing work. Science can be true while also having gaps and continually evolving over time. Many holistic coaches can be filling an essential gap left by medical pitfalls, while some are unqualified and are profiting off of desperate people. You as a consumer are allowed to be skeptical, ask questions, and make decisions that you believe is best for you. Ask for certifications. Ask for testimonials from previous clients. Research the people that you are about to trust with your health. Consider how a combination of both medical and holistic treatments can actually be essential to your care. Build a wellness team that is all-encompassing based on your available resources. If you ultimately want to help people and be a part of the solution, not the problem, then get the proper certifications before you work with people on their health. Get a mentor that you trust to help you along the way. Believe it or not, you can get on social media or like out in the open, and you can speak to whatever you believe in without adding to the confusion by discussing nuance and the middle ground, even if it isn't algorithmic gold. If you want to continue this discussion, my DMs and emails are always open. It's one thing to get on my podcast and share with you guys all of my thoughts and opinions, but we have to admit it's pretty one-sided here. So I do encourage honest discussion, and I love hearing what people have to say. So feel free to shoot me a message with your reflection. That's a wrap for today, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Macro Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable for your own wellness journey. Remember, true transformation comes from consistent, intentional steps forward. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all things health and fitness, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release fresh content bi-weekly every Wednesday to keep you inspired and informed. And hey, if you loved what you heard, I'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to share this podcast with a friend or family member who might benefit from it. By sharing it with others, you're helping them on their wellness journey too. Keep striving for progress, not perfection, and I'll catch you next time.